Welcome to Set Free 24/7. My name is Robert, and I am joined by my beautiful wife, Heidi.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, and thank you for joining along today. We are reading through the Message version in 1 year. We're bouncing around a little bit. I love how it brings you a little bit in the New Testament and a little bit in the Old Testament. It really does give you some context to things.
It sure does.
So we're going to get started here today. As always, the text for today is going to be listed down in the comments, so feel free to follow along in your favorite translation or just put us on in the background and let us do the hard work of reading, and we'll take care of that for you.
Some of those names do make it hard work.
They do make it hard work, I know. So we will start out here, Matthew 5, and I'll be reading from verse 13 through 20. So let me tell you why you are here. You're here to be salt seasoning that brings out the God flavors of this earth. If you lose your saltiness, how will people taste godliness? You've lost your usefulness and will end up in the garbage. Here's another way to put it. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We are going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on a hilltop on a light stand, shine. Keep open house. Be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you will prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. Don't suppose for a minute that I have come to demolish the scriptures, either God's law or the prophets. I'm not here to demolish, but to complete. I am going to put it all together, pull it all together in a vast panorama. God's law is more real and lasting than the stars in the sky and the ground at your feet. Long after the stars burn out and the earth wears out, God's law will be alive and working. Trivialize even the smallest item in God's law, and you will have only trivialized yourself. But take it seriously, show the way for others, and you will find honor in the kingdom. Unless you do far better than the Pharisees in the matters of right living, you won't know the first thing about entering the kingdom. And that's the end of Matthew there.
Well, all right.
Yeah. So we are moving then next over to Acts 7, verse 1 through 41.
All right. Stephen, full of the Holy Spirit. Then the chief priest said, "What do you have to say for yourself?" Stephen replied, "Friends, fathers, and brothers, the God of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was still in Mesopotamia, before the move to Haran, and told him, 'Leave your country and family and go to the land I'll show you.' So he left the country of the Chaldees and moved to Haran. After the death of his father, he immigrated to this country where you now live, but God gave him nothing, not so much as a foothold. He did promise to give the country to him and his son later on, even though Abraham had no son at the time. God let him know that his offspring would move to an alien country where they would be enslaved and brutalized for 400 years. But God said, I will step in and take care of those slaveholders and bring my people out so they can worship me in this place." Then he made a covenant with him and signed it into Abraham's flesh by circumcision. When Abraham had his son Isaac, within 8 days he reproduced the sign of circumcision in him. Isaac became father of Jacob, and Jacob father of 12 fathers, each faithfully passing on the covenant sign. But then those fathers, burning up with jealousy, sent Joseph off to Egypt as a slave. God was right there with him, though. He not only rescued him from all his troubles, but brought him to the attention of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. He was so impressed with Joseph that he put him in charge of the whole country, including his own personal affairs. Later, a famine descended on that entire region, stretching from Egypt to Canaan, bringing terrific hardship. Our hungry fathers looked high and low for food, but the cupboard was bare. Jacob heard there was food in Egypt and sent our fathers to scout it out. Having confirmed the report, they went back to Egypt a second time to get food. On that visit, Joseph revealed his true identity to his brothers and introduced the Jacob family to Pharaoh. Then Joseph sent for his father Jacob and everyone else in the family, 75 in all. That's how the Jacob family got to Egypt. Jacob died, and our fathers after him. They were taken to Shechem and buried in a tomb for which Abraham paid a good price to the sons of Hamor. When the 400 years were nearly up, the time God promised Abraham for deliverance, the population of our people in Egypt had become very large, and there was now a king over Egypt who had never heard of Joseph. He exploited our race mercilessly. He went so far as forcing us to abandon our newborn infants, exposing them to the elements to die a cruel death. In just such a time, Moses was born, a most beautiful baby. He was hidden at home for 3 months. When he could be hidden no longer, he was put outside and immediately rescued by Pharaoh's daughter, who mothered him as her own son. Moses was educated in the best schools in Egypt. He was equally impressive as a thinker and an athlete. When he was 40 years old, he wondered how everything was going with his Hebrew kin and went out to look things over. He saw an Egyptian abusing one of them and stepped in, avenging his underdog brother by knocking the Egyptian flat. He thought his brothers would be glad that he was on their side and even see him as an instrument of God to deliver them, but they did not see it that way. The next day, 2 of them were fighting and he tried to break it up, told them to shake hands and get along with each other. "Friends, you are brothers. Why are you beating up on each other?" The one who had started the fight said, "Who put you in charge of us? Are you going to kill me like you killed that Egyptian yesterday?" When Moses heard that, realizing that the word was out, he ran for his life and lived in exile over in Midian. During the years of exile, 2 sons were born to him. 40 years later, in the wilderness of Mount Sinai, an angel appeared to him in the guise of flames in a burning bush. Moses, not believing his eyes, went up to take a closer look. He heard God's voice, "I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Frightened nearly out of his skin, Moses shut his eyes and turned away. God said, "Kneel and pray. You are in a holy place, on holy ground. I've seen the agony of my people in Egypt. I've heard their groans. I've come to help them, so get yourself ready. I'm sending you back to Egypt." This is the same Moses whom they earlier rejected, saying, "Who put you in charge of us?" This is the Moses that God, using the angel flaming in the burning bush, sent back as ruler and redeemer. He led them out of their slavery. He did wonderful things, setting up God signs all through Egypt, down at the Red Sea, and out in the wilderness for 40 years. This is the Moses who said to his congregation, "God will raise up a prophet just like me from your descendants." This is the Moses who stood between the angels speaking at Sinai and your fathers assembled in the wilderness, and took the life-giving words given to him and handed them over to us, words our father would have nothing to do with. They craved the old Egyptian ways, whining to Aaron, "Make us gods we can see and follow." This Moses, who got us out here miles from nowhere, who knows what happened to him? That was the time when they made a calf idol, brought sacrifices to it, and congratulated each other on the wonderful religious program they had put together.
Stephen was going after it.
He was. He certainly was.
Can you imagine him being in this church, surrounded by Pharisees and everybody else, and then recounting all of these...
Educating the educators.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now the favorite part of the segment, we're rewinding back to the Old Testament, and Heidi is going to be reading out of Psalm 11 today.
All right, let's see what David has to say. Psalm 11. I've already run for dear life straight to the arms of God. So why would I run away now when you say, 'Run to the mountains, the evil bows are bent, the wicked arrows aim to shoot under cover of darkness at every heart open to God. The bottom's dropped out of the country. Good people don't have a chance.' But God hasn't moved to the mountains. His holy address hasn't changed. He's in charge, as always, his eyes taking everything in, his eyelids unblinking, examining Adam's flesh and blood inside and out, not missing a thing. He tests the good and the bad alike. If anyone cheats, God's outraged. Fail the test and you're out in the hail of firestones, drinking from a canteen filled with hot desert wind. God's business is putting things right. He loves getting the line straight, setting us straight. Once we're standing tall, we can look him straight in the eye."
I love how it ends there with God's business is putting things right. He loves getting the lines straight.
Yeah, there's a lot of hope you can find.
And now we're rewinding all the way back to Genesis, and I'll pick up here with the last couple chapters. We have Genesis 27 and 28 today. When Isaac had become an old man and was nearly blind, he called his eldest son Esau and said, "My son." "Yes, father." "I'm an old man," he said. "I might die any day now. Do me a favor. Get your quiver of arrows and your bow and go out in the country and hunt me some game. And then fix me a hearty meal, the kind you know that I like, and bring it to me to eat so that I can give you my personal blessing before I die." Rebekah was eavesdropping as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. As soon as Esau had gone off to the country to hunt game for his father, Rebekah spoke to her son Jacob. "I just overheard your father talking to your brother Esau. He said, 'Bring me some game and fix me a hearty meal so that I can eat and bless you with God's blessing before I die.' Now, my son, listen to me. Do what I tell you. Go to the flock and get me 2 young goats. Pick the best. I'll prepare them into a hearty meal, the kind that your father loves. And then you'll take it to your father. He'll eat and bless you before he dies." "But mother," Jacob said, "my brother Esau is a hairy man and I have smooth skin. What happens if my father touches me? He'll think I'm playing games with him. I'll bring down a curse on myself instead of a blessing." "If it comes to that," said his mother, "I'll take the curse on myself. Now just do what I say. Go and get the goats." So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she cooked a hearty meal, the kind that his father loves so much. Rebekah took the dress-up clothes of her older son Esau and put them on her younger son Jacob. She took the goat skins and covered his hands and the smooth nape of his neck. Then she placed the hearty meal that she had fixed and the fresh bread that she had baked into the hands of her son Jacob. He went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes," he said. "Which son are you?" Jacob answered his father, "I'm your firstborn son Esau. I did what you told me. Come now, sit up and eat of my game so that you can give me your personal blessing." Isaac said, "So soon? How did you get it so quickly?" "Because your God cleared the way for me." Isaac said, "Come close, son. Let me touch you. Are you really my son Esau?" So Jacob moved close to his father Isaac. Isaac felt him and said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He didn't recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's. But as he was about to bless him, he pressed him. "You're sure? You are sure you are my son Esau?" "Yes, I am." Isaac said, "Bring the food so I can eat of my son's game and give you my personal blessing." Jacob brought it to him and he ate. He also brought him wine and he drank. Then Isaac said, "Come close, son, and kiss me." He came close and kissed him, and Isaac smelled the smell of his clothes. Finally, he blessed him. "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of the open country blessed by God. May God give you of heaven's dew and earth's bounty of grain and wine. May peoples serve you and nations honor you. You will master your brothers, and your mother's sons will honor you. Those who curse you will be cursed, and those who bless you will be blessed." And then, right after Isaac had blessed Jacob and Jacob had left, Esau showed up from the hunt. He also had prepared a hearty meal. He came to his father and said, "Let my father get up and eat of his son's game, that he may give me his personal blessing." His father Isaac said, "And who are you?" "I am your son, your firstborn, Esau." Isaac started to tremble, shaking violently. He said, "Then who hunted game and brought it to me? I finished the meal just now, just before you walked in, and I blessed him. He is blessed for good." Esau, hearing his father's words, sobbed violently and most bitterly, and cried to his father, "My father, can't you also bless me?" "Your brother," he said, "came here falsely and took your blessing." Esau said, "Not for nothing was he named Jacob, the heel. Twice now he's tricked me. First he took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing." He begged, "Haven't you kept back any blessing for me?" Isaac answered Esau, "I've made him your master, and all of his brothers his servants, and lavished grain and wine on him. I've given it all away. What's left for you, my son?" "But don't you have just one blessing for me, father? Oh, bless me, my father, bless me," Esau sobbed inconsolably. Isaac said to him, "You will live far from earth's bounty, remote from heaven's dew. You'll live by your sword, hand to mouth, and you will serve your brother. But when you can't take it anymore, you'll break loose and run free." Esau seethed in anger against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. He brooded, "The time for mourning my father's death is close, and then I'll kill my brother Jacob." When these words of her older son Esau were reported to Rebekah, she called her younger son Jacob and said, "Your brother Esau is plotting vengeance against you. He's going to kill you. Son, listen to me. Get out of here. Run for your life to Haran, to my brother Laban. Live with him for a while until your brother cools down, until his anger subsides and he forgets what you did to him. I'll then send for you and bring you back. Why should I lose both of you on the same day?" Rebekah spoke to Isaac, "I'm sick to death of these Hittite women. If Jacob also marries a native Hittite woman, why live?" Chapter 28. So Isaac called in Jacob and blessed him. Then he ordered him, "Don't take a Canaanite wife. Leave at once. Go to Paddan Aram to the family of your mother's father Bethuel. Get a wife for yourself from the daughters of your uncle Laban. And may the strong God bless you and give you many, many children, a congregation of peoples, and pass on the blessing of Abraham to you and your descendants, so that you will get this land in which you live, the land that God gave Abraham." So Isaac sent Jacob off. He went to Paddan Aram to Laban son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, who was the mother of Jacob and Esau. Esau learned that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him to Paddan Aram to get a wife there. And while blessing him, he commanded, "Don't marry a Canaanite woman," and that Jacob had obeyed his parents and gone to Paddan Aram. When Esau realized how deeply his father Isaac disliked the Canaanite women, he went to Ishmael and married Mahalath, the sister of Nebaioth and the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son. This was in addition to the wives that he already had. Jacob left Beersheba and went to Haran. He came to a certain place and camped for the night, since the sun had set. He took one of the stones there and set it under his head and lay down to sleep. And he dreamed. A stairway was set on the ground, and it reached all the way to the sky. Angels of God were going up and going down on it. Then God was right before him, saying, "I am God, the God of Abraham your father and the God of Isaac. I'm giving the ground on which you are sleeping to you and to your descendants. Your descendants will be as the dust of the earth. They'll stretch from the west to the east and the north to the south. All the families of the earth will bless themselves in you and your descendants. Yes, I'll stay with you. I'll protect you wherever you go, and I'll bring you back to this very ground. I'll stick with you until I've done everything I've promised you." Jacob woke up from his sleep, and he said, "God is in this place, truly, and I didn't even know it." He was terrified. He whispered in awe, "Incredible, wonderful, holy, this is God's house. This is the gate of heaven." Jacob was up first thing in the morning. He took the stone that he had used for his pillow and stood it up as a memorial pillar and poured oil over it. He christened the place Bethel, which means God's house. The name of the town had been Luz until then. Jacob vowed a vow. "If God stands by me and protects me on this journey which I'm setting out, keeps me in food and clothing, and brings me back in one piece to my father's house, this God will be my God. This stone that I have set up as a memorial pillar will mark this as a place where God lives, and everything that you give me, I'll return 1/10 to you." And there was a little pause section in here that has to speak about some verses in chapter 28 that we just read, and it's titled Fear, Hope, and Purpose. Jacob thought he was all alone that night. He was running scared from his twin brother Esau, who hated him not only for swindling him out of his birthright, but also for stealing his blessing. But Jacob was also hopeful, for he was on his way to Paddan Aram to find a wife. Those two things filled his thoughts. Those were big things, and there wasn't room for anything else. But then Jacob's dream showed him there was more to his life than fleeing from his brother and finding a wife. He heard God speak. The message was this: "Jacob, you are blessed and will be a blessing. I have a purpose for your life, and I'm going to complete it. I am with you, and I will not give up on you." Suddenly, the world of Jacob expanded. Where he'd lain down that night and put his head on the stone pillow, his life had been two-dimensional. His world had been defined by what was behind him, his brother, and then what was ahead of him, his wife. He was all past and future, but there was no present to him. His identity consisted of what he had been and what he hoped he would be. The dream gave him the present. It plunged him into what was going on right then, God fulfilling a divine plan in him that was so much grander than the plan that he had for his own life. Isn't that true in our lives as well? How we have this plan, and sometimes we're stuck in the past and stuck in the future, but we're so busy with all of that that we forget to be present.
Yeah. I struggle, though, with the whole Esau just took the raw end of everything. He got run over. I mean, it was all given to a deceiver, a liar, a conniving.
Yeah.
And his mother helped him. And that's the one who was blessed. In the unfairness of that, I struggle so hard with that.
Yeah.
Because I see myself as Esau, but cast aside, nobody cared. Even his own mother. Oh, not him. And he rightfully was supposed to have it.
He had those things coming.
Rightfully.
His birthright and the blessing.
Yet we're all like, oh, it's just fine.
Because it's Jacob.
And I'm like,
Jacob is a nice guy.
But it wasn't fine, because what he did was wrong.
Yeah.
And it was a sin, so I don't understand why he wasn't punished. Why was he blessed for being so horrible? I'm just being honest with my feelings in reading this. I do not understand that, because everything about that feels so wrong. That somebody gets away with it and walks away with everything. And Esau is basically cursed. Got nothing for you.
Was there heart issues, you think, with Esau?
Is that
why? Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know. And
I do agree with you, though.
It's like I know that it goes through that son, but the means that were used to get it just sit so wrong in me. I'm going to be really honest. I'm really struggling to understand this.
Well, if our listeners have any good ideas or thoughts on that, we would be happy to engage in a conversation. We're not Bible scholars over here. We're just two people that are passionate about Jesus, love reading the Bible, and loving sharing that passion with you through reading the Bible every day.
Yes, absolutely.
So thanks again for joining along today. So friends, I'm going to be honest here and let you know that about 8 or 9 hours have passed since we recorded this episode, and Heidi asked if we could throw this in right at the end. Because if you've gotten to know us at all over the last 10 days or whatever, you probably knew that from the beginning of this episode, the energy was just a little
Something
off.
was definitely missing, and I know in hindsight thinking about it that it had to have been obvious to the people that tune in and listen, and I don't ever want to leave any of you wondering, well, what in the world happened? Because we tune in because it's like this, and then this happened. So I have asked Robert if I could just talk about it a little bit, and he was gracious enough to say, yes, we're going to add this on the end, because I was going to re-record this. I originally asked Robert if we could do this over because I knew it sounded like it did. The more I thought about it, I chose not to do that. I want to leave the reading as it is and then add the explanation. Some days when you're a Christian are just hard. And I'm going to be very honest without going into the details. That's for another time and place. We are involved in the very heart of a pretty intense spiritual battle. And the topic that it involves is a weighty one, and especially for me in some unique ways. It's been a really incredibly difficult week, and I'm going to be honest and say I woke up this morning and knew that I was under some pretty heavy spiritual attack. Chose to do the reading anyways, and what I found, and really did not like it at all, is I was absolutely disconnected from it. I didn't feel God talking to me like I have every other time. And
I
in fact,
felt like there was a wall between
there was
us.
an absolute wall. I didn't connect to it. And the thing is, I didn't try, because what I was reading, I latched onto what was making me angry, because there were elements in it that remind me so much of what I was immersed in this week. I'm going to say this. God is so incredibly good all the time, and he was good in the story of Jacob and Esau that we read also. That birthright needed to go through a particular son. Dad knew that, but he loved the other. Mom loved the other. So they have a set of twins. Mom likes Jacob. Dad likes Esau. Jacob needed that birthright, but was the younger twin. God ordained that and said that. But
and it doesn't seem fair.
It doesn't seem fair
for somebody that's, had stuff ripped away from them or their rights taken away or whatever.
He didn't do anything to not deserve it.
Right.
It's just how it needed to be. And as research showed, he ended up being a powerful, wealthy nation, probably exceeding in wealth what his twin had.
Right.
It's just the line of Jesus did not go through him. And here's where I'm going to put it out there. I had to admit that God gently showed me that he uses such broken people who try to take matters into their own hands instead of trusting his plan. And they use deceit and lying and stole what God would have given him regardless, because he ordained that.
Yeah.
I need to apologize to you for not saying that or explaining the state that I was in when I started reading. I'm not going to apologize for the spiritual attack I was under. I want you to get to know the real us, and that means sharing with you the good and the bad in the Christian walk. Spiritual attacks happen. It happened badly to me today, but I'm happy to say God and I had a little come to Jesus moment, and I did. I listened.
What happens when
And I
God
heard-
comes to Jesus? Is he coming to Jesus too, or is?
Oh no,
Do you
he
come together?
marched me right
He
on up
marched you
and
to
let's have it
Jesus.
talk. Do you need a reminder of what my son did for you?
Yeah.
Do you need me to tell you what I have done for you? Because he has done so much for me.
Yeah.
And a few tears and lots of prayer today. A husband who loves me and was willing to talk with it.
Yeah.
And
I adore you.
I'm back. I adore you too. And I adore our listeners, but I just felt it was so important to explain
And be
what
real.
happened today, because I want you to know you can count on us being real. I'm never going to apologize for that, and that will never change.
And we've said this before that, we're not Bible scholars. We don't have any fancy degrees on the wall or anything
Nope.
like that. This is really just two regular people that love the Bible, that love people,
Yes.
that are passionate about helping people and walking along with them in restoration and all of that.
Absolutely.
And we love sharing that passion with you. And this is something that's brand new for us. And so we just appreciate you taking this journey through the Bible with us. And part of that journey is getting to know us and also going through some of the ups and downs with us. One of the things that I enjoy most about Set Free 24/7 is just learning to live one day at a time. And it's going through moments like that. You recognize how things weren't how you wanted them to be really this morning, that it wasn't the right energy. You weren't as engaged as you wanted to be.
It was not me.
Right.
That was Heidi getting shut down by the enemy. And boy, he was effective this morning.
But dealing with that, right? One day at a time. And in that moment, you were kind of one moment at a time working through that.
Yes.
And that's really all this channel is about. It's about
Absolutely.
being real, living life one day at a time. And we just want to be real and transparent about how we handled something or the struggle that we were going through. We don't ever want you to think that we got it all together. I mean, I lost my playbook at being an adult. Like, I don't know, somebody stole it from me when I was on a crack binge one day. So.
It could very well, maybe with your class ring, is
I know,
probably
it
there.
probably
So.
is sitting in somebody's garage right now, right next to my
Yes.
class ring, my adult handbook. Oh man, and it's probably right next to my marriage handbook too. If you see that one out there, fellas, I mean, just send me a copy. I need another one.
Not that one. No, the old marriage handbook, you can burn that one. The current one we have now
Works
is
well.
perfect.
We love it.
Yes, he is my what God has joined together. And thank you for taking the time to hear me explain why it sounded different in the reading today. Thank you so much for showing me grace. I am actually going to ask any of you who are the praying kind, cover me in prayer over the next week. I'm going to need it. I have another big event coming up in the week that lays ahead, and I think that weighs on me too.
Yeah.
I'm going into enemy territory, and it's not an easy thing to do.
It's not really enemy territory. It's just you're going.
Yes, it's
I know
returning
what you're
to a
doing.
past where there was tremendous amounts of pain and hurt, but I'm returning with
And
love
it can be
and
a
help.
little bit of abrasive at times.
Well, it can be.
Yeah. But it's okay. We're
I
working
know.
through that.
Anyways, my last thing is, Jacob, I don't hate you for what you did to your brother anymore. Everything is good. See you in heaven. Can't wait to talk to you. Esau, you just keep hunting, doing your thing, and be your best hairy self. God's got it handled.
And friends, this is Journey Through the Bible, number 11. Thank you
Yes.
so much for joining us. We are so glad that you were here. Give this episode a like, a follow, a share, whatever it is, wherever you are, just join us. We are so happy that you're here and look forward to joining you again tomorrow.
I'll be back probably like this. So I can't wait to see you then. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Yeah. Bye-bye now.